The outer gods of Elden Ring have been one of the most interesting and mysterious subjects since the release of the game. If you agree with this, I have some good news for you. I believe we have been introduced to one more outer god, the outer god of night, an entity that can alter fate itself, an ever-vigilant eye that lurks in the void, watching silently, an entity that, if you understood its nature, I believe would recontextualize a big portion of the lore. And so, I dived deep into the real-life cosmos to try and find the astronomical inspiration behind it. At the end, the traces of night required to face the final boss are clearly cosmic, and you need 4 of those to face Huel Store. The item states that the light dimly reveals the contours of a greater being that lies beyond the Nightlord. But we don't see Huel Store in this icon. It's clearly something beyond our comprehension, beyond Huel Store himself, an outer god. And indeed, Elden Ring is heavily influenced by the cosmos and the cosmic entities that lurk in it. The stars, the moon, Meteor and her fleeting microcosm, the greater will being beyond the microcosm, and even the Elden Beast is clearly a cosmic being. In this video, I will explain the outer god of night, the Recluse, and the gnawling. Starting with the most obvious question, what is the outer god of night, and how do we know that there is one? As I said, the first clue is the trace of night acquired from the Nightlords. Speaking of fighting the Nightlords, many people reported seeing an eye in every Nightlord arena, most obviously during Caligula's fight and Everdark Sovereign Adol. But to be honest, I didn't see it myself in every arena. The Nightreign circle itself though makes that eye shape when fully closed. You can see it in an amazing video by Bonfire VN. It's another subtle yet very important visual clue that leads to the outer god of night. Speaking of the outer gods, it's common knowledge at this point that the outer gods do seem to embody natural phenomena. Rot, death, and even blood, just to name a few, are tied to their respective outer god. And night is a natural phenomenon. This isn't just common sense. Iron Eye acknowledges this fact in one of his dialogues. So it would be in harmony with the lore that the night has its respective outer god. But in fact, we don't need to do any mental gymnastics. We do have an explicit confirmation that there is an outer god tied to the night. We can learn this truth from the bone-like stone found during the Recluse's remembrance. It reads as follows: a disturbing stone with a distinct lifelessness, the bone of an outer god, with the power to expunge divine essence, but that can also be destroyed by the same essence. We can clearly see the same blue hue of the night behind the stone, and judging by the fact that the Nightlord is the one who gave us that bone and how the bone was used to make the gnawling, it's very safe to assume that the outer god mentioned in the description is the outer god of night himself. Now, going back to the trace of night, it states that the light is said to reveal the contours of a greater being. So the light itself is key to unraveling this mystery. I believe it's a star. Take a look at this. I believe the trace of night is the artistic representation of this. A protostar surrounded by what is known as a protoplanetary disk. You can think of a protostar as a baby star. It's on its way to becoming a real star. While a protoplanetary disk is the vast spinning rings of gas and dust that surrounds it. This disk forms from leftover material from the collapsing cloud, the same material that formed the star. Protoplanetary disks are the birthplace of planets and asteroids. Asteroids like the bone-like stone. Think about it until we come back to the bone-like stone. Now, it wouldn't be out of place that the outer god of night is a being beyond the stars, with power over them. Indeed, it's very logical that the trace of night may be a representation of a star. It would explain so much about the description of the trace of night and how it can alter fate. The trace of night is said to bear the manifest potential to alter fate itself. It can even explain the theme of Nightreign itself. At the end, a big portion of Elden Ring's gameplay and lore revolves around the stars and their connection to fate. The Nox themselves have a strong relation to the stars and were anticipating a Lord of Night. While during Ranni's Age of Stars ending, she talks about the shell night that encompasses all. If I am correct and the light in the Trace of Night item is actually a star, then the outer god of night powers over fate become very logical. He's a being beyond the stars, a being that can command them and subsequently commands fate itself. It reminds me of the moon in Bloodborne and how it dimly reveals the being beyond it, the moon presence. And indeed, we do have an example of a celestial body revered by the Nox that can guide stars, the moon of Noxtella. This legendary talisman is a treasure of Noxtella, the Eternal City. This talisman represents the lost black moon. The moon of Noxtella was the guide of countless stars. Just like the black moon of Noxtella, the outer god of night is a being with great powers over the stars. This constant push-pull relationship between stars, night, and fate is something deeply embedded in the lore of Elden Ring. One need only to listen to the mutterings of the Albanorics to understand that.
Oh, stars, all night, oh, fate, punish them all. Punish the world entire. Punish every living thing. Punish every living thing.
As you can see now, the stars, night, and fate are deeply tied together, and it makes sense. At the end, night is what allows us to see the stars. And in turn, it seems that glimpsing beyond the light of stars reveals the greater being behind the night. Now, before going forward and explaining how this discovery may recontextualize a big portion of the lore, I want to talk about something subtle yet very neat. Something that will tie everything together, the visual theme of Elden Ring Nightreign. The first thing you may have noticed when first playing Nightreign is how different the color palette is from the base game. Instead of the golden theme of the Golden Order used in the base game, the theme of Nightreign is mainly bluish. We can see that very clearly when looking at the main menu, the new version of the Elden Ring, and most importantly, the loading bar. You may ask, why is the loading bar important? Well, because it looks so similar to one of the most important items in the base game, the Starlight Shard. We know that the Starlight Shards were used by the Nox in times long past to prepare special drafts, while the Amber version of the Starlight Shard states that golden stars control the fate of the gods. This Amber version was used to make a special draft, which seemingly had the ability to change the fate of Ranni and turn her into a puppet. Sylvis also turned many others into puppets, using this potion which was prepared using the normal Starlight Shards. Going back to Nightreign, I believe the bluish theme and the appearance of Starlight Shards signify how the night sabotaged the fate of the lands between. It fits so well with the Trace of Night description. The idea of the outer god of night being connected to the movement of the stars themselves is very intriguing. It may even recontextualize a lot of the events of the base game and explain a lot of mysteries. I believe it can also be seen in Hjulstor's arena, in the shape of the vortex that appears during Hjulstor's fight. This vortex looks like some kind of a portal, which is very exciting, but it's actually much more simple. This vortex is simply a real lifelong exposure photo of the night sky. I used to try to capture such images when I went stargazing, but why do those trails appear in such photos? When you take a long exposure photo of the night sky, meaning you keep the camera's shutter open for several seconds, minutes, or even hours, you are capturing the motion of the stars relative to the Earth. But the stars themselves aren't moving, we are. As the Earth spins on its axis, the stars appear to drift slowly across the sky. In real time, you can't really notice it, but during a long exposure, the camera records the apparent movement as streaks or trails of light. The longer the exposure, the longer the trails. As you can see now, the outer god of night seems to be connected to the movement of the stars themselves, but unlike the real world, it seems the stars are actually moving in the world of Elden Ring. And as I said, I'm proposing in this video that they are moving under the influence of the outer god of night. This idea of star movement has some very deep ties to the lore of Elden Ring, especially to a concept introduced in the DLC called the precession of the stars, and of course to Star Scourge Radon himself. In the DLC, we encounter a new and very interesting type of character called the Demi-Human Swordsman, or Demi-Human Yoda if I may. Interestingly, the Demi-Human Swordsman is one of only 2 bosses from the DLC that make an appearance in Nightreign, up till now at least, which is something to think about. Now those swordsmen were bestowed the star-lined swords by their queen. It reads as follows: sword encrusted with a line of stars fashioned from small pieces of crude glintstone. Weapons of the Demi-Human Swordsman. When bestowed with this weapon by their queen, the swordsmen swear to find the truth that lies at the end of the precession of stars. The description talks about the precession of the stars and the truth that lies at the end. On the sword itself, we can see a line of stars, and this detail is more than just decoration. It directly explains the word precession. A precession is a line, a forward movement, usually slow, deliberate, and ceremonial. In real life, we use the word to describe parades, religious rituals, or funerals. It implies movement with a purpose, a journey with significance. So when the item description talks about the precession of stars, it refers to the slow, inevitable movement of the stars across the night sky. A cosmic trail unfolding over time. And I think the choice of the word precession here is very deliberate. It's not just saying that the stars move, it's saying that they are being led. A precession implies order, not chaos. It implies intention. Something or someone is behind it, guiding it. That's what makes this word so powerful in this context. So when these swordsmen swear to follow the precession, they are not just chasing constellations, they are chasing the truth that lies beyond the movement of stars. And that truth broke everyone who tried to glimpse it. The ashes of Demi-Human Yash explains further. Onzi, a master swordsman who devoted himself to the Starline sword, realized that only ruin awaited at the end of the precession of stars and imprisoned himself in order to forestall it. Now we know that at the end of the precession of stars awaits ruin. Now the question becomes, what kind of ruin? I believe to answer this question, we need to look at another concept that is tied to the stars, the primeval current. The primeval current is what you tap into to use a glintstone sorcery. The eldest of primeval sorceries is the founding stars of ruin, which is said to be the founding glintstone sorcery. I want you to notice the word ruin appearing here as well. Now the sorcery comet Azure adds some very interesting insights. Fires a tremendous comet in a torrent akin to the distant starry expanse, the place said to be the origin of glintstone. When Azure glimpsed into the primeval current, he saw darkness. He was left both bewitched and fearful of the abyss. By connecting the dots here, we can see how reaching and gazing beyond the movement of stars reveals darkness and ruin. Two words that can be easily used to describe the night we see in Nightreign. Another part of the lore that I believe needs to be revisited after Nightreign is Star Scourge Radahn and the reasoning behind halting the stars. This part of the lore ignited an ongoing debate since the release of Elden Ring. Why did Radahn conquer and halt the movement of stars? Perhaps he was trying to defend Celia from asteroids, or he was trying to interfere with Ranni's plan. There have been many answers, and we can't really know for sure. But after the revelation about the outer god of night and its connection to the movement of stars, I wonder if Radahn knew about this. In the end, he was a Carian and well versed in sorcery. He was the son of Queen Rennala, and we know that she understood the primeval current and how dangerous it is. Perhaps he knew what lurked beyond the stars. Sorceress Selene states the following. Long ago, General Radahn challenged the swirling constellations and in a crushing victory arrested their cycles. Now, he is the force that repulses the stars. If General Radahn were to die, the stars would resume their movement. We can see here how Radahn arrested the cycles of stars and stopped their movement, which fits really well with what we have already established. Perhaps Radahn was trying to minimize the influence of the outer god of night. In the end, we know that Radahn was part of the Golden Order, and what he did empowered the Order of Marika. The telescope item states the following. During the age of the Earth Tree, Carian astrology withered on the vine. The fate once read in the night skies had been fettered by the Golden Order. We can see here how Radahn's actions empowered the Golden Order. But again, we can't know for sure, yet it's certainly something to think about. Now let's return to the protoplanetary desk and explain the bone-like stone and the gnawling. As I said, the blue hue around the protostar is known as a protoplanetary disk, which is the birthplace of the planets themselves. But not just that, sometimes the process of planet birth fails, and those failed planets become what are known as S-type asteroids, the original asteroids of the cosmos. This takes us to the bone-like stone, the bone of the outer god of night. You may have noticed that the stone looks a lot like a space rock. At first glance, I thought it looked like the moon's surface or perhaps an asteroid. And indeed, I found an asteroid that I believe was the inspiration behind the bone-like stone. The asteroid 433 Eros, which is an S-type asteroid, meaning it originates from a protoplanetary disk. This asteroid is the second largest asteroid that revolves around the Earth. Now it becomes entirely logical that the bone-like stone is the bone of the outer god of night and is embedded with its power. It came from the blue hue surrounding the star, born from the power of the stars themselves. There is a strong possibility that the outer god of night was sending these asteroids throughout the cosmos, in hopes of expanding and manifesting its influence in different regions of creation. Outer gods using celestial bodies to their advantage isn't new to Elden Ring. The Greater Will sent Astil, a malformed star, to destroy the Nox. Meteors fall to the lands between all the time, and from those meteors rise all kind of alien life. like the Alabaster Lords and everyone's favorite Falling Star Beasts. Now it seems that the Outer God of Night's plan was successful in Nightreign, because the bone-like stone found its way to someone with enough knowledge, the Recluse. The Recluse is one of the most important Nightfarers to the story of Nightreign. She's a very powerful witch specializing in blood magic, and her story is interconnected with many Nightfarers. But she is also connected to someone even more important, the Nightlord himself. You see, the Recluse had a child, an infant that was never given a name, so she called it the Gnawling. The Gnawling wasn't a normal infant. With insatiable hunger, he was more of a god than a baby, able to devour shadow itself. He even devoured the shadows of an entire army before disappearing. After disappearing, the infant gained an audience with Yulestor, and they merged together. If it's not clear yet, the infant had the power of the night itself inside it. To further explain the story, I need to introduce a new character, the Witch of the Wheel. The Witch of the Wheel was a compatriot to the Recluse and the infant's nurse, a woman of deceit, we were told. Her wiles were sword and shield to her. The Witch of the Wheel was consumed by the infant, but after her demise, the Nightlord saw fit to bring her back. She clearly holds a grudge toward the Recluse due to her subpar magical abilities. Yet, she was trying to stop the Recluse from gaining audience with the Nightlord. She went as far as locking the Iron Menial in the underground mausoleum and taking his place. This caused a lot of confusion in the community, as the key item Vestige of Night says the following. The menial asked about an engraving, but how did he know that there is one before setting eyes upon it? This caused many people and creators alike to think that Nightreign is stuck in some kind of time loop. I almost fell into that trap myself, but even if there is some kind of time loop, the description doesn't actually support that. The line is simply a hint left by FromSoft to help you realize that there is something wrong with the menial. It's the clue that the intruder in the round table, the Witch of the Wheel, has taken his place. After that, you are meant to attack the menial to reveal the Witch of the Wheel. The witch then reveals the truth. The Recluse doomed the world. She gave rise to a monster, the Devourer of Shadow, a weapon unleashed upon the world entire. She goes on to say that in order to stop the Nightlord, the Recluse must slay her own child. But in the end, that's revealed not to be true. After defeating Yulestor and returning to the shrouded round table, we find the infant lying in bed, crying. The Recluse holds the babe in her arms and cradles it. And in that moment of motherly love, it stops crying. But that raises the real question. How exactly was it born? How did it acquire such immense power? The answer, I believe, lies with the bone-like stone, just as I said earlier. And I believe there are two possibilities here. The first possibility is this. Upon finding the stone, the Recluse performed a ritual and she became a vessel. The ritual forced her into gestation, but not of a normal child. She gestated an infant who was night itself, born from the power embedded in the bone-like stone. This fits quite well with the story of Fia from the base game. We are told that she gestated the mending rune of the Death Prince after laying with Godwyn, so there is some common ground here. The second possibility requires us to look at another piece of media, Berserk. It's common knowledge at this point that Berserk has had a huge influence on the Souls genre. So what about Nightreign? To be honest, when I first saw the gnawling, only one thing came to mind. This reminds me of the demon child from Berserk. So I thought, what if the gnawling was inspired by the demon child? Maybe we can understand its origins better if we look at its inspiration. In Berserk, the demon child is a child of Guts, the protagonist, and his lover, Casca. She became pregnant before a catastrophic event called the Eclipse. During the eclipse, Casca was sexually assaulted by Griffith, the story's villain, while she was still pregnant. After getting saved, she gave birth to the demon child, a malformed infant corrupted by evil and imbued with tremendous power. Yet, despite its monstrous origin, the child had a deep emotional connection to its parents. It followed them, protected them, loved them. It just wanted love. And I feel this may have been the inspiration behind the gnawling. A malformed infant corrupted by a cosmic force and imbued with its power, yet one that still yearns for its mother. Its need for love is not just a detail, it's a clue. Just like the demon child in Berserk, the gnawling didn't want to conquer the world. It just wanted its mother. So maybe, just maybe, the recluse was already pregnant with a normal child before she found the bone-like stone. Then she performed a magical ritual on the stone, and the power of night tainted her unborn baby. That child, the corrupted fetus, became what we now know as a gnawling. In the end though, both possibilities are valid, and maybe the truth is meant to remain ambiguous. So tell me what you think in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. Until the next video, farewell, Nightfarers.